Hello, good morning, and welcome to Tip Off. David Locke along with you, radio voice of the Utah Jazz, Jazz NBA insider. Glad to be with you today as we get it rolling after a disappointing loss last night for the Utah Jazz. We'll give you the NBA 5, and then we'll fire through as well with our regular Tip Off edition. Hope all of you are able to jump aboard, tune in today, wherever it is you might be listening, partaking, whatever it might be that you're doing today. I mentioned it yesterday, but I want to mention it again. Leap and Leaners is the charity event that's coming up, and it's a great time. And if you have the wherewithal to be a part of it and support the Jazz charities, I would strongly suggest go to utahjazz.com for the details of that. Leap and Leaners and Low Tops. It's a fabulous event, great interaction with the players out on the floor. Charitable fundraiser, and it's happening April 2nd for at Energy Solutions Arena out on the floor there. So that should be a good deal of fun. Jazz fans, as you know, season tickets are available for the upcoming season as well. All right, each night or each day we do this. We do the NBA 5 first, and then we dig into what's going on with the Utah Jazz. So let's do exactly that. I didn't do any production today. I guess I'm off my game. NBA 5 Real Plus Minus got re-released yesterday with updated form from ESPN. I like Real Plus Minus. I think it's got some real value to it. The top players in the league make sense. Steph Curry, James Harden, LeBron, Kawhi Leonard, Russell Westbrook, Anthony Davis, Chris Paul, Chris Middleton, DeMarcus Cousins, Draymond Green, and Kyle Korver are your top 11 plus-minus players overall. The top offensive plus-minus players are Westbrook's number 1, Curry 2, Chris Paul 3, Kyrie Irving 4, value of the point guard, 5, Damon Lillard, 6, Isaiah Thomas, 7, Indiana's George Hill, 8, Ty Lawson, 9, Kyle Lowry, 10, Brandon Jennings, 11, Mike Conley. Oh, wait. That's because I have it sorted by point guard. I was going to say this is excessive point guards. Here are the offensive. James Harden is 1. Russell Westbrook is 2. Curry is 3. Chris Paul 4. LeBron 5. Carmelo still in there at 6. Kyrie 7. Damian Lillard 8. Kyle Korver 9. Lou Williams 10. And Gordon Hayward, the 11th most valuable offensive player in the entire league. The defensive Real Plus Minus, Andrew Bogut is 1, Tony Allen is 2, Nurkic in Denver is 3, Draymond Green 4, DeMarcus Cousins 5, Tim Duncan 6, Kawhi Leonard 7, Chris Middleton 8, Darrell Arthur in Denver, Andre Roberson 10, Rudy Gobert is 11th, Elijah Millsap is 16th. Overall on Real Plus Minus, Gordon is 14th, Favors is 29th, and Rudy overall is the 14th ranked center, 11th best defensive player overall, but he's negative offensively on Real Plus Minus, which we've talked about. I actually think he might be one of the lowest rated centers overall. I thought there were some interesting little finds. Kelly Olynyk is the number 1 offensive center in Real Plus Minus. Real Plus Minus is supposed to isolate the individual's performance and impact on a team and take away some of the noise based in supposed to have the impact of who they're playing with and who they're playing against in there as well, which I thought has some, which I think has some real value. And to our discussion of kind of Rudy's next step of development, Rudy's offensive plus minus comes out as 51st center in the league, while his defense obviously is one of the elite defensive centers in the league. I think Bogut is number 1 and Rudy's number 4. Overall, best players at the position on overall Real Plus Minus, I thought there were some interesting. Elijah, by the way, comes out as the 3rd best shooting guard. Your shooting guards are James Harden, Chris Middleton, Kyle Korver, Danny Green, Klay Thompson, Tyreek Evans, Manu Ginobili, Andre Iguodala, Wesley Matthews, and Jimmy Butler are your top 10 on Real Plus Minus. Your Real Plus Minus small forwards are LeBron, Kawhi Leonard, Draymond Green, Gordon Hayward, Tony Allen, Kevin Durant, Carmelo, Matt Barnes, Luol Deng, and Al-Farouq Aminu. A little surprise there. Your top power forwards, Anthony Davis, Paul Millsap, Zach Randolph, Cody Zeller, Tim Duncan, LaMarcus Aldridge, Derek Favors, 7th, Markieff Morris, 8th, Serge Ibaka, 9th, Kevin Love, 10th, Nikolai Mirotic, 11th. And I think I gave you the top point guards, but they're Curry, Westbrook, Paul, Wall, Lillard, Lowry, Irving, Bledsoe, Holiday was injured, George Hill, Michael Conley, followed by Jeff Teague. The Jazz point guards don't come out very well on this. Unless I missed Dante, I think, is in as a shooting guard for some silly reason. And Alec is in as a point guard. Trey Burke comes out. Alec comes in at 61st. Trey Burke comes in at 57th. And Bryce Cotton actually ranks ahead of both of them on real plus minus. I think Dante Exum is 32nd as shooting guard, which is not right, but someone should tip ESPN off to fix that. All right, so that's the real plus minus. I wanted to update you on that. Interesting, Zach LaVine is the lowest point guard. Real plus minus. NBA last night, the wildness as we come down the stretch continues. I'm telling you, the Warriors are historically great. The Warriors differential is plus 10.7. The Clippers are the next closest at 5.6. There's no one even close. They blow out Washington last night. Simultaneously, Houston gets 44 from James Harden. He continues to amaze. And just if you want to start thinking about MVP, Cleveland is at 46 and 26, walking their way up in complete control of the Eastern Conference as Atlanta swoons a little bit. And they're the number one offensive team in the league since LeBron checked back into the game. All right, so, how do you pick the MVP? I have no idea on that. Eastern Conference, by the way, I haven't talked about it only to mock them, but Miami's 32 and 37, 5 games below 500. They're in 7th. Boston's 31 and 39. They're in the playoffs right now at 8 games below 500. Charlotte's 30 and 39. The same Charlotte team that we beat the other night is now a half game out of the playoffs. And Indiana has lost 6 in a row, so they're only a game out. Brooklyn, who looked miserable, is at 29 and 40, and they're only a game and a half out. Insane. By the way, the Jazz at 31 and 39 would be in the playoffs in the Eastern Conference. Actually, our tiebreaker against Boston would be the Zeller layup would be costing us. How about that? That is your NBA 5. Let's dig into the Utah Jazz. Hey, Travis Rust is on the bottom of our screen. It's old Jazz producer. So last night's loss is not good. And really, the problem to me is just that the Jazz didn't play well enough defensively. That's really the problem in last night's game. The Jazz allowed a defensive rating of 113.6. So they lost their focus defensively last night. Once they lost their focus defensively, the loss is not crazy. Because I know it's nice to say that Minnesota only had 7 players. I don't actually think that's a drawback for a given night. And without being ruthless here, so Andrew Wiggins is a bona fide NBA player. Zach LaVine's a bona fide NBA player. Lorenzo Brown's not. Gorgie Deng is. Adrian Payne will be determined. Chase Buddinger's a bench player in the NBA. And Sean Kilpatrick's probably not. Okay, so they were playing. Excuse me, my voice is thrashed from last night. And I was just tired this morning as I have been all year. So I had my coffee. So they were playing with 4 bona fide NBA players, and a 5th one we're waiting to see on. And Adrian Payne, who played the fewest amount of minutes. What about the Jazz? Favors bona fide, Rudy bona fide. Joe Ingles, having a really good year, cut 4 times. Right? Let's just look at it when the year started. Excuse me. I don't have a cough button. When the year started, Wiggins, LaVine, Deng, Budinger, Payne, probably. I mean, he's a top 15 pick. Okay? 5 guys. The year started for the Jets. Favors, Gobert, Ingles. Dante's not an NBA player right now. I mean, he's playing in the NBA, but he is so lost. Okay? Rodney was out of the game by the end. I don't even know what. We'll talk about Trey. But Elijah, Bryce Cotton, Jeremy Evans. So, really, Favors, Gobert, Trevor, once you're without Rodney, and Trey's got to do something about where he is right now as a player. It's not the talent level. I'm not trying to I guess my point is the Jazz lost their defensive focus, which they have, which Minnesota hasn't had this year. But once that's done, the talent level between these teams was not crazy different last night. Favors was the best player on the floor, but they're double teaming him and taking him out of the game. Okay, now what? I mean, the key play to me of the entire night is Favors is posting on the far block. They double off Trey, who's the closest guy to. They don't go one or two removed. Like very common in the NBA, you double from one or two guys removed from the closest guy. You almost never double off the entry pass because it's too easy for Favors to find that guy and flip it. Favors finds it, flips it back out. Trey misses the three. Like, if you're not gonna make them pay for leaving you wide open for three, there's not a lot of chance. I mean, the stats view numbers, which I don't go to a lot, but every now and then I do, which I did today, on our box score last night are stunning. It's a little bit like everybody asks me, like, what's wrong with our free throw shooting? You know what's wrong with our free throw shooting? I mean, we got a bunch of guys that aren't very good shooters. Like, is that just too simplistic? I was pretty impressed by Rudy last night. Late game free throw shooting was awesome. And he's not a very good shooter. But he clutched up. Jazz actually hit 12 of their 14 free throws down the stretch, which kept him in the game. Elijah Millsap's not a very good shooter. He buried 2 free throws. It was nice. But uncontested jumpers last night. The Jazz were 15 of 45, 33%. Joe Ingles buried 4 threes. Okay, well, then they started to guard him a little bit. Trey Burke went 2 of 16 last night on unguarded, uncontested jump shots. I mean, at some point, this is Elijah Millsap 0 for 4. Okay, so for a good deal of the night, we were playing with Elijah Millsap and Trey Burke on the floor, and neither of them can make a shot. Makes a game really close. Right? Makes a game really close. So, it was a bad loss, and it's a bad loss because they lost their defensive focus, and it got worse as the game went on when Zach pulled up and hit a bunch of shots. But I think it's a good reminder of where the talent level, frankly, of the Jazz is. The minute Gordon leaves the floor, we can't score. We had a great offensive night for us without, we did about what we could offensively last night. Really, truly. If you look at, during the season, we averaged 95.5 points a game. Per 100 possessions, when Gordon's off the floor. Our offensive rating last night was 111. That's because Minnesota's one of the 3 worst effective field goal percentage defenses in the history of the NBA. They probably played better defensively last night, but really, frankly, what the Jazz did last night offensively was really good. They had a 111.5 offensive rating, even with Trey Burke going 4 for 22 without Gordon Hayward. I don't have a problem with Trey Burke's 22 shots last night. I really don't. I said it during the broadcast. He was like 1 for 10. I was like, he's going to have to shoot 22 times. I hope they go in. I also tweeted very early in the game, without Gordon, if Trey has a bad night, we're going to have a tough time. Here's the problem. Trey's having bad nights way too often. And I don't know if it stems back to I haven't looked at these numbers for last year. But this year, Trey's played 69 games. I think he missed one, but I don't even remember what it was. He's been incredibly durable. In those 69 games, in 37%, really 38% of those games, he has shot 33% or less. Okay, so in 38% of the games, a little more than 1 out of 3, almost 2 out of 5, Trey Burke's going to shoot 33% or less. It just can't happen. Worse, in 18 games this year, 26% of the games, so 1 out of every 4, he's shooting 25% or less. Crazy is we're like 8 and 10 in those games, by the way. It's actually somehow stunningly not having an impact on our win-loss record at all. Trey's in a danger zone for his career and his future prospects. He's worked really, really hard this year. He's added the floater at times. He's tried to do other things. He's trying. He's putting in the time. The offseason is going to be big for him because right now he's in a realm that's scary. So if he shoots under 30% this year, he's going to play over 2,000 minutes. He's going to be one of only 4 players since 1975 to shoot under 37% and play 2,000 minutes. If you add effective field goal percentage to that, it gets down to only Brandon Jennings and James Posey since 1975 have shot below 37% from the field, below 44% effective field goal percentage, and played 2,000 minutes. It's nervous time in a second. I strongly believe you cannot evaluate a player until the second time they do a job unless it's not till their third, and it must be by their third season. So in the case of Trey, I don't think we can evaluate him until the end of next year. For Gordon, I don't think we could evaluate him off last season. It's the second year he's done this as the lead dog scorer. I don't think Favors we could evaluate him off last year. It's the second year. Cantor, frankly, I didn't feel like we could evaluate him until the second year he acts as a starter. We had other reasons why it was time to move him. But I don't think you could evaluate him. Point guards in particular are slow to develop. So if we look at someone like Mike Conley, he shot 42% and 33% his first year, 9 points a game. His second year, he scored 10, 11 points a game, shot 44 and 41. He kind of picked it back up. And then his third year, he took a nice jump. He went up to 32 minutes. He got to 12 points a game, and you can begin to see the progression. He had an assist. He added a steal. He did some things in that. You saw the – now, truthfully, since I'm not trying to sell a bad good, you saw progression in the second year there, and then he made a nice subtle jump in his third. Jeff Teague. In his first year was a mess. He shot 39% and 22% from three. In his second year, coming off the bench, he makes a nice step. He goes to 44% and 38%. That's the unnerving thing. Only averaging 5 points a game. He's barely playing at this point, right? He's averaging 3 points a game his first year and 5 points a game his second year. And frankly, it might have been good for Trey if he had this kind of luxury. I mean, we've really thrown Trey into the deep end. Trey is the over-dipped Oreo cookie right now, for those who follow this. The next year, his third year, Teague makes a nice jump, starts for the first time, and then the next year after that, where he's now playing his first, the second year doing something, second year starting, he makes the next jump. He goes from 5 assists to 7. He goes from 12 points to 15. His shooting percentage, his effective field goal percentage increases. Like, he made a nice jump there. Brandon Knight is probably one, though Brandon Knight is still not terrific, frankly. His real plus-minus isn't great. His efficiency is only okay. But he spends his first year in Detroit, shoots 41%, 38, averages 13 points a game. His second year is actually very similar to what we're seeing here with Trey. He doesn't really make any progress at all. He kind of stays the same. And then the next year, he goes to Milwaukee, and his shooting percentage goes up a percentage or two. His 3-point actually dropped down. He suddenly moves to 18 points a game. Kind of adds an assist, and this year he's there. He made a subtle jump. I'm not sure on him though yet. I loved him out of college, but he may have been an over-dipped Oreo cookie as well. He was 20 years old and got thrown to the fire, and it's really hard. Sometimes Conleys and Teagues and some of these guys who didn't play as much are better off in their first years. Brandon Jennings is another one that got thrown to the wolves early and has not, he had shot 37% from three his first year. He notched it up to 39 and 42. Then in his second year as a starter, then he got to 42 and 33. 39 and 32 the next year. Then he got up to 42, and 19 points a game. He looked a little bit better. Then he got traded, and he's kind of all over the map. Now he's had the Achilles tendon. He's never made a huge jump, but he's gotten a little bit better along the way. It's a little. So I guess my thesis statement here would be it's a little unnerving that what we're seeing out of Trey is the exact same thing that we saw last year, but we probably have to, before you're going to I would withhold complete judgment until he gets a third year in the league. That seems to be there's a little jump there for point guards, but it's not great. And, very few players have had seasons of this type of shooting. And then you suddenly link, 2 years in a row where his career shooting percentage is now 37, 33. It's not great. The bigger issue to me is the incredible regularity that's showing up, right? I mean, that idea that nearly 40% of the games, that's a little bit of a stretch, 38%. He's going to shoot 33% or less. Probably statistically not that stunning if he's a 37% shooter, right? But, I mean, even if you go take off the 2,000-minute note that I put on it and just put it 1,000 minutes, other than Jason Kidd, or let's just do effective field goal percentage. Well, no, because if I do effective field goal percentage below 44, I'll get every big man as well. But how about if I just put in guards? If you take guys whose effective field goal percentage is at the point of 44% or lower, give him 1,000 minutes played, you start doing the search. Other than Jason Kidd in the history of the game, you don't have a lot of guys in the recent years that then have big-time NBA careers. So he's in a nervous zone. And I think he knows it. Russell Westbrook did it. They're very different players. Ricky Rubio did it. Iverson had some funky years in there. But it's not, there aren't a lot of guys. You're into the Eric Snow kind of category of stuff. There aren't a lot of years. I guess I don't want to belabor it too much, but there haven't been 10 guys, frankly, that have done a lot of that. And poor Trey is unfortunately heading toward one of those right now. And hopefully he'll get it going. I'm rooting for him. Last night was just tough, but I don't have a problem with his 22 shots last night. I think that's, frankly, what he had to do for the team without Gordon. His team really struggles to score without Gordon, and you looked on the floor, it was abundantly clear that this team was going to struggle without Gordon last night. There aren't a lot of guys to shoot. So I think there's, I think it's a danger zone. Jonathan Erickson, what's it going to take to get Dante to try to have an impact on offense? He makes no effort to put pressure on defense. He's 19 years old. He's did not play much talent last year. He's exhausted, and it's not going to happen this year. I've said, good question from Jonathan. I think that's a lot of people feel that way, but I've said this a lot. I'm just not. I'm kind of done evaluating anything involving him at this point. Not as I just think the evaluation of Dante is over for the season. He is quick. He is really talented defensively. He's seemingly mature above his years. He was completely overwhelmed, which we knew. His body and legs are not strong enough. And he has shown every bit of skill level that makes you believe he could be terrific. Now let's see if it turns out. There's nothing I've seen this year that makes me say, uh-oh, we shouldn't have drafted him there. Both Andrew Wiggins and Zach LaVine are very young and did look, far more advanced than Dante last night. Both of them, I think, are about a year older. Both of them have just turned 20. Dante's still hovering at 19 for another 5 or 6 months. So they're half a year older. I think it makes a difference. And I think having played in Kansas and UCLA is very different than having played Australian high school basketball. It's a big difference, really. That is the difference. So I'm not evaluating Dante. I'm not worried about it. Really, last in that sense. I think that's it. I don't really. Is there anything else last night that I forget anything? We're ho-humming Rudy 18 points and 17 rebounds again. Derek's 19 and 12. I mean, he ended up with 11 turnovers between Joe and Trey last night, which, it's too bad, but it's what happens when you don't have Gordon on the floor. Gordon's, we're not a deep roster. Let's not kid ourselves, I guess is my point. Right? Joe's a first-year NBA player, has been cut 4 times. He's playing 34 minutes. Elijah is a D-League player, is playing 30 minutes. Bryce Cotton played 11 minutes. Dante's, struggling. He's played 25 minutes. When you suddenly take the 35 and you lose, we beat New York barely without Gordon. Rodney Hood's the one making the plays late. Rodney Hood's out of the game with gastronic, whatever, I can't say it, with stomach issues. So I think that I think unfortunately that was a stark reality. We could have played better. So that wraps up tip-off. We're still good. All still good. Last night was a bummer. We're still all good, but we're fragile. We're not built to be a playoff team yet. There's a lot of work that has to be done. There's a lot of big decisions that have to be done in the offseason of whether we're trying to do it right away or there's still some level of which you let this thing organically develop and let their guys have their chance. Made a big move in moving Ennis. Now what do you do? What do you do next? All right. That's tip-off. Have a good one. See ya. Bye.